Welcome to Habitly Courses, a production of Manage to Win. Each course is divided into multiple lessons for easy viewing. All are now completely free, so you can watch them on your own or work through them as a team. Please subscribe to this channel, leave a comment, and share your favorite lessons with others. Try to find something that helps you be your best.
Hello, this is David Russell. I'm back. We're talking about an ownership culture. So what do I mean? What is my definition of an ownership culture? Well, first of all, we have to understand every company has a culture, whether it's intentional or unintentional, good or bad, whatever it might be. Every company has a culture. And the company culture is defined by what everyone in the organization or the majority or the people in control expect and tolerate. So you can say all the things you want. Enron had great values for their company culture, but they didn't live them out, and so it destroyed the whole organization. Basically, this phrase, to permit is to promote. And I don't know that I came up with that, and I'm not sure where I got it, but to permit is to promote. It also applies to parenting, right? That's a whole nother discussion. And too often, most employees, including leaders, unfortunately, act like permissive parents. This is part of my definition of a bad boss. I don't want bad bosses. We have to remember that the only one true competitive edge we have as an organization is our culture. It's something nobody can copy. They can copy everything else about our business, but they cannot copy or steal our culture. So let me define it for you. An ownership culture is a company that systematically designs and maintains its work environment so self-motivated employees think and act like owners to create wealth, which in turn provides meaningful life experiences for them, their coworkers, and company. Now, some of you may say, whoa, 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 I'm not in this for the money. But let's get real. If you can't get paid, your paycheck bounces, or your company can't pay you, are you doing something that's meaningful? I don't think so. Company has to make a profit. Otherwise, it can't stay in business. Even nonprofits have to bring in enough money to sustain operations and pay people a fair wage. Otherwise, it doesn't work. So this is a definition. This is my definition of an ownership culture. Not the only one. Somebody more articulate than me may come up with something better, probably something shorter. But this is what I'm talking about. We want to create an environment where you're self-motivated to do your best because you love what you do and you're doing what you love, okay? So it doesn't matter what your company does. You can be a manufacturer, you can be a sales organization, you can be a retailer, you can be a healthcare organization. It really doesn't matter. An ownership culture is purposeful in whatever it does. And it's all about we. The entitlement mentality goes away because we're enjoying what we're doing individually and collectively. So there's no us and them between employees. There's only we. And the company is basically our product. And what we're trying to do in an ownership culture is to build a growing, profitable company, which is our product. Everyone shares in the responsibility, and everyone should share in the rewards. Not equally, but they all should share. And employees, products, even clients are second to the company needs. We're serving a higher need, a higher purpose here. Now, let me ask you, which culture has more accountability, an ownership culture or an accountability culture that I described earlier in lesson 1, where everything's being driven from the top down? Well, you should know the answer, an ownership culture. But why? An ownership culture has more accountability because everybody holds themselves accountable individually. So that means when nobody's looking, we're still working to do our best. Now, an interesting story was told by Rick Warren, and Rick Warren is a pastor and teaches on a variety of subjects, including leadership. And he was talking about how the founder of Chick-fil-A was with him, and They were down in Southern California, and they went to go look at a Chick-fil-A site that was being built. And then they went across the street to a Taco Bell, and they went into the restroom before they ordered their meal. And he happened to notice, Rick noticed, that I believe his name is Truett Cathy is the founder. And I think it was Truett that was the one, not his son, Dan. But he noticed that Mr. Cathy was cleaning up the sink. He had pulled out some extra paper towels, and he was cleaning up the sink area. And Rick said, well, it's really interesting that you would be cleaning that up. And he just shrugged his shoulders, and Kathy said, well, I mean, we have a value that we leave everything better than it was before. Now, this is a competitor's restroom, and he's cleaning it because he takes responsibility. Anybody going to see that? Did he know that Rick would ever talk about it? No, this was just something that was a habit. It was something he did because he's self-motivated to be the best he can be and have a positive impact on others. Pretty cool. Now, if we think about it, owners typically focus on these 7 areas. Now, it might be some other areas depending on your business, but financials, product offerings, service delivery, sales, risk, competition, and employee failure. In contrast, employees typically focus on relationship with supervisors and peers, recognition, work environment, paycheck, benefits, opportunities for growth, and job security. Now, in an ownership culture, we have to align the two. Why? Because both are important. The owner thinking and the employee thinking. And what happens then is it helps us all to consistently demonstrate ownership behaviors with integrity. We're on the same page. We're rowing in the same direction, that type of thing. An ownership culture is an organization of excellence. It is. It's not a losing organization. It really does excellent work because it's not a company that has some individuals or teams that perform excellently. It is an organization, a full group of excellence. And basically, if you go back, there's a story of Nucor Steel. They started out as a conglomerate that was just mediocre at best. I don't even think they'd qualify as that. Something happened decades ago, and they decided, hey, we're going to do steel only, and they jettisoned their other businesses. I think they had a new CEO come in. And we're going to change the comp so everybody's paid on performance. They weren't union. They're still not union. And they built in a performance-based company environment, an ownership culture that is transparent with all the metrics, and everybody from the executives all the way down to the janitor and the receptionist and anybody else who's, on the lower end of the pay spectrum, but everyone is important. Everyone in the organization is paid on performance, how well the organization does. And in that organization, for many years, I don't know whether it's still the situation, but the workers would actually chase the union people out of their plants because they didn't want union. They earned more than the union. The union was all about job security and protecting people who maybe weren't doing too well and supposedly about compensation, but they already made more. And they didn't want protection for people that weren't performing in their environment. They wanted everybody held to the same standards. It's great. So let me jump into some scenarios and games that give you an opportunity to think through what I've just talked about. Same rules for the questions. Be candid, be respectful, no attacking, and really what we're trying to do is encourage and explore these ideas to understand how can we apply them in our workplace to have a more meaningful workplace where we're personally fulfilled. That's what we're trying to do. So an ownership culture is a company that systematically, now these systems are important. You don't want to be bureaucratic. You don't want them micromanaged. You don't want a 1,000-page policy manual or a 2,000-page healthcare bill, right, that nobody reads. That's another issue. systematically designs and maintains its work environment so self-motivated employees think and act like owners to create wealth, which in turn provides meaningful life experiences for them, their coworkers, and company. So let me give you some questions. You can stop the video after each one. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect, how much of an ownership culture do we actually have at our company, and why? Second question, what are 3 things that could happen at our company today that would motivate me, each individual, if you're in a group, would answer this, to behave more like an owner? What's something that could happen? Are there 3 things? Maybe there's 1 or 2, but I'd ideally like to hear 3. Write a list of those, and then after everybody's got their list, discuss it. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect, how good is my relationship with my supervisor? And how good is my relationship with my peers, in general, my peers? Write that down. Discuss that. Number 4, describe the last time I was recognized or complimented at work for doing a good job. Write that down, a note, whatever, but discuss it. And number 5, holding everyone to the same standards, now I want you to describe the last time you recognized or complimented someone at work for doing a good job. Explain that and discuss that. Number 6, what are 3 things that you like best about your work environment? List them and then discuss them. Number 7, what 3 things do you like least about your work environment? List them and then discuss them. Number 8, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect, how fairly am I paid for the work I do? You don't have to be specific about what you're paid, but list that and then discuss that. Number 9, what are the 3 most exciting learning opportunities I have in my current career? What I'm doing this year, what are the 3 most exciting learning opportunities I have? List those and discuss those. Why are they exciting? Why are they meaningful? Number 10, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being perfect, how secure do I feel in my current career? Notice I don't talk about a job. A job is a short-term thing. A career is a long-term thing. How secure do you feel in your role there at the company? Discuss that. All right, I'm going to give you 5 situations. The question here is, do I think like an owner? Here's the situation. I feel something at work can be improved. Give an example where you, and I'm interchanging I and you. On the screen it says I, but really this is obviously about you. Give an example where you confirmed others agreed, quote unquote, it, whatever it is, can be improved. You developed a solution independently or with some other people. You shared the problem with people who have authority to do something about it and proposed your solution. You didn't bring a problem, you brought a problem and a solution, and then you supported a resolution to the issue. So talk about that when you've done that. When was the last time you did that and what happened? All right, we'll move on to the next one. Number 2, do you think like an owner? Give an example where you have picked up litter that was not yours and you threw it away. Cleaned a messy office bathroom sink that you did not do. Remember I brought up the story. Left a clear explanation in some notes or documentation so others will understand what to do in my absence. And taking care of something outside of my typical responsibilities, your typical responsibilities. Discuss that. Moving on to number 3. Do I think like an owner? Okay. How did you respond to misbehavior? Let's say there was gossip about coworkers or the company in general. Did you encourage, direct conversation? So in other words, don't talk behind the person's back. Why don't you go talk to that person and excuse yourself, or just excuse yourself because you didn't have authority or whatever, you didn't want to challenge them, but at least you didn't participate. Staying there and listening means you validate that gossip. How about foul language? Did you mirror their behavior and start swearing yourself? Or did you just communicate more professionally whether or not you challenged them on their foul language? You're offered a video, a joke, or a story. Do you save it for personal time so you can work a full shift, or do you take a break and listen to it? It's only 30 seconds. It's only a minute. Okay? Study after study shows it's tough to get back to your work after that. And even though the video is only a minute, it gets your mind going, eats up a lot more time. If you're an owner, you're going to save it for personal time. Talk about these three areas. Is there some things you can do to improve? All right, number 4. Do I think like an owner? Well, how do you respond when a coworker, number 1, cheats on a time card or an expense report and you know about it? Do you say anything? Do you challenge them? Do you report it? I would suggest you challenge them directly. If that doesn't work, then report it. What if you cannot do excellent work on time? You let people know when it's due, well in advance of when it's due. You just miss the deadline, don't tell anybody. When somebody else does that, how do you handle that? So my recommendation is you confront the person individually. That doesn't work, bring coworkers, talk to them. That doesn't work, escalate to a manager. What if somebody's goofing off on the job? They're online shopping. They're talking about personal stuff. They're talking about politics or sports. What about toxic behaviors? What do you do then? What if they dress inappropriately? What if they bend over, you get to see their butt crack? What if they've got, a low blouse where you can see a lot of cleavage, or they've got tight-fitting clothes where you can see muscles or the shape of their body because they've got a nice shape to their body, or whatever it might be? Okay? What do you do? Talk about it. How do you think like an owner? It doesn't mean you have the authority of an owner. Remember, we want to treat everyone with honor, dignity, and respect. But if you permit it, then you're encouraging it. So what do you do? It's a challenge. And moving on to number 5, how do you respond when a coworker avoids doing something because they feel it's not their responsibility? It's not in the details of their job description. I have to do it. Or makes you miss a deadline, or gets recognized or thanks, but you didn't, even though you did just as much as they did, or maybe more, or doesn't seem to be giving all they can to succeed. There's a variety of things that can happen there. Hey, what do you do? Talk about these things. How can you create an environment that's self-motivating and these people that are misbehaving end up leaving? Okay, hopefully nicely. This is the end of lesson 2. Lots to discuss here, right? Lots to discuss. We want to create an environment that we love to come to and work in. That's what we want to do, right? We want to enjoy our work. Spend too much time at work. Got to enjoy it. Review the teaching, review the game scenarios, answer these 5 questions, study for the exam, pass the exam, and then I'm going to move on to lesson 3. That's all for now. Bye.